Señor Cooler.
Continuing with my catch-up, this year I am going to watch all of the Mad Max films for the first time, and then see Mad Max 4 Fury Road. And I kind of stumbled into this by accident, because, as Netflix is often to do, they're like, okay, we're going to be getting rid of these titles, and so there's this rush to like, oh, that's in my queue, and it's going to go away soon, so I'll go see the film right away. I'll go see it before it's before it gets off of the queue. And so I saw Mad Max, and so I learned I learned a lot. I like this movie quite a bit. And I know that some of the films I've been saying have been like, oh, I don't like, I like it, but it's not great. But no, this movie, this movie is, yeah, this movie is great. I'm just, yeah, we'll go with great. It's so 1979 is when the first Mad Max was made by George Miller. It's the breakout role for Mel Gibson. George Miller has had a little bit of a muted career since Mad Max. Once Miller got beyond Thunderdome, he mainly just did the 2 Babe movies and the 2 Happy Feet movies. And Babe Pig in the City is, as far as I know, until I haven't seen Road Warrior yet. I've only seen the first Mad Max, but as far as I know, Babe Pig in the City is his masterpiece. Babe Pig in the City is a wonderful film that has a surprisingly dark tone, but with, again, like films like Secret of NIMH, you have a character whose heart and tenacity and outlook keeps you going through it. Very stylized, very, very, very unusual, but very good. And so after what, it must have been 30 years? After 30 years, he's now coming back to make Mad Max 4, Fury Road. Mel Gibson won't be in that one, but he's replacing Tom Hardy with it, aka Shinzon from Star Trek Nemesis, aka Bane from Dark Knight Rises, and he's done a few other things recently that are films that I probably haven't seen yet. But he seems to be re-emerging as a good actor. Mad Max is one of the most profitable indie films of all time. It's the ultimate Australian indie movie. It was filmed in the outback. It was filmed on a very low budget, extremely low. I think Wikipedia quotes Miller as saying that it was about $400,000 tops. And by the way, $400,000, or what's the currency in Australia? I don't know. But it was filmed very cheap, and it made a big amount of money, a crazy amount of money for the budget they had, and it propelled George Miller and Mel Gibson to fame. So what do I think made this film work? I would say that it was this bizarre suspension of disbelief being impossible. As you're watching it, it's immediately obvious how low the budget is. Not in a bad way, but in a way of, you can tell that they're just filming it on any given road in Australia, and they're just prevented anyone else from being on the road, and they're saying it's the post-apocalypse without using any of the modern techniques, special effects, or set designs to make you believe that it's a post-apocalyptic movie. It's obvious that they're just filming on some road in Australia, and they're telling you it's the apocalypse. I know you can't really see that, but trust me on this, believe me on this. And yet, that the film makes it very easy for your imagination to believe that. It does take you using your imagination to go, okay, apocalypse, I'm with you on this. It does take some imagination to bring the audience with that, but the film makes it very easy for you to imagine it. And like it's also this again, when I say post-apocalypse, I mean like they're in the middle of this energy crisis where a lot of people don't have gas. It's gas and oil and gasoline, and they don't have enough to ride their vehicles, and biker gangs roam the countryside and the roads, and kill people and rape women, and it's everything's just gotten to hell. The world's gotten mad, as I believe. I don't know. This is the first film in the series I've seen, so I'm not sure. But I know that a lot of the the setting styles and the environments and the designs and all that has carried over and become very popular in recent years, particularly in the spiritual successor to Mad Max would be Borderlands. The Borderlands games. They're kind of a combination of steampunk and Mad Max on an alien planet. They're carrying that banner loud and proud of having crazy junkyard hoodlums. And as far as the cops go, the legal system is very weird and very lenient. Like, because when a gang rapes a woman and a couple or whatever, and then one of them's captured and put on trial, and no one shows up to the trial, so there's no prosecuting side. So they let them go. No. But if you read the back of... Well, I didn't have a back of the box to read, I just had the Netflix summary. But the general summary of the show, it sounds very generic. But it is not by nature of pacing. Because the general premise of the show is post-apocalypse, biker gangs roaming the countryside, raping people and killing people. And then there's this cop, Mad Max, or just Max for starts, played by Mel Gibson, and so they kill his partner, they attack his family, and all of this just pushes him over the edge, and he goes on a rampage and kills them. Now, what I said just there sounds like it's been done before and done since. It sounds like a typical cop pushed over the edge revenge story. That's not exactly what happens. That's not representative of what the whole film is. What makes this movie fascinating, and what really puts a good feather in its cap for me, is how the pacing turns it into a film that is different than what that sounds. Instead of just a revenge flick of a cop who, like, instead of making that seem like it's his origin and having him just go crazy on the gang throughout the whole film is actually about him trying to stay sane in a world that has already been pushed over the edge. It's about a cop trying not to lose his sanity as all these horrible things are happening, and as other people around him are kind of going nuts. And the fact that he's not immediately pushed over, it's just him struggling to maintain his sanity, and that's a good theme for the film to run with. And when he finally gets pushed over, he screws them over bad. One thing that is interesting in this day and age is how the wife does not seem to be a helpless, defenseless woman who's being attacked by biker gangs. That's not exactly what happens. When it first happens, she's while they're fixing up Max's car, she walks off into another area around there, and then she encounters a biker gang, and she fights them off, and then so she runs away, rejoins Max, and they get away. And she fought her way out of that own situation. In the climax, when they're on the beach and biker gangs are after her, she has a very active role in preserving her life on multiple levels. She attacks them off, and when she realizes it's too big for her, she runs away. Takes the baby, runs away, and then she attempts to flee their location by asking for help, and like where the person, like, I think that must be extended family. So the old woman who lives there grabs the shotgun, grabs the car, puts the wife and the kids in the car, and Mad Max isn't around for one reason or another. I forget why, but it's not a bad decision on Max's choice to be away from the family while this is happening. He doesn't know what's happening. He's not aware of any possibility that it's happening. But they escape in the car, and the old woman and the wife and the son escape in the car, and when the car breaks down eventually, what she does is she starts is that they get out of the car. The old lady grabs the shotgun, starts shooting at the bikers and telling the wife to run with her son, and they start running as far as they can, as fast as they can, because they're stuck in the middle of the road. But obviously, it's not. They do their best. They do their best to get away from them, and it's not just it. To this day, there's still a bit of a problem of. There's still a bit of a problem of damsels being in distress too easily, I would say, and not having a very good participation in their active survival. That's one of the reasons why I like Gwen Stacy in the first Amazing Spider-Man film, because she kicked butt. She kicked Lizard Man's butt, and she owned him good and got away with it for that movie anyway. Anyway, that's a very unusual point in its favor given that time era, given 1979, when this year's films are having trouble handling that right. The action scenes are very well handled. In the sense that when they're driving in a car or they're driving on a bike, you can see and feel the speed it's going at. That sounds weird, right? But in a lot of films lately, when you see a car driving, it's tough to really understand how fast they're going. If they're saying they're going 80 miles an hour, you don't really get the sense that that's happening. But since they're in the Australian outback and the roads are long and empty, they get to actually physically go faster than they actually get to physically go very fast in their cars, and that's captured on film, and it's refreshing. I can't believe how fast these cars are going in compared to modern filmmaking, where they just kind of do the camera work to make it kind of trick your eyes into seeing the car go fast. But in Mad Max, they are actually physically going that fast. I really liked how they handled that. And the pursuit special. I now see why this car has been revered as one of the coolest cars ever made. Because the story builds it up quite a bit. And it's very interesting that on such a low budget, they were able to find such a unique and rare car, and that imagery of the car itself has just stood the test of time. And Mad Max has stood the test of time, definitely. Made on a budget, definitely, not really fulfilling George Miller's full vision. That's what I'm expecting Road Warrior to be when I see it. I have it. I borrowed it. Thank you, Chuck. I borrowed it, and Chuck let me borrow it, and I will. I think that Road Warrior is kind of the perfect balance between budget and vision and control, and not going too crazy with it, and forming a very solid, well-rounded, great movie. I'm hoping that's what it is. In this movie, it's obvious that it's limited by budget, but it overcomes those limitations quite a lot, and so I really dig it. I really like Mad Max. I think it's great that in this day and age, that that I can rediscover an old film franchise like this, and I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of them. And I'm definitely looking forward to the new one in theaters.